was good to see, organizations like the VA there and lots of other people. So I thought what I would do to kick this off is to review a couple of comments that I wanted to submit on behalf of the Advanced Directive Interoperability community. I never want to just assume that everybody knows all of these acronyms because there's just so many. I don't know how everybody can keep them all straight. So I'm going to share my screen and I'll go over it rather high level. But if you need me to slow down and take you back a few steps, please ask me to do that. I'm trying to make good use of your time. I'm not trying to leave you uninformed. So USCDI, so US core data, what is USCDI? Shoot, you'd think I'd know by now. Matt, what is USCDI? Yeah, United States Core Data for Interoperability.
You got it.
You know, some days I'm not quite sure I can find my behind with both hands. So thank you. So USCDI, that is the set of topics, and you can have a data class that groups them together because the human mind seeks to make order of things. And you can look at the data elements, and the data elements are about a topic. And those data elements represent something that is properly categorized and identified in a clinical record system as such. And for certified EHR technology, so those are the clinical record systems that are certified by the Drummond Group to meet the appropriate criteria according to the powers that be. And so if you look back in time, you can see how it started very small. And there's sort of a glide path. So USCDI will say, let's look at version 3. If a clinical record system has a medication substance, then by X date, that information has to be liberated from those electronic health records and made available to the larger healthcare ecosystem. And you can see how things start slow, right? So, way back in version 3, the idea of exchanging, making available patient goals really came to fruition. And there's a public comment period that impacts USCDI. Even while things are in a state of flux in Washington, it has always been sort of the compass of ASTP to say, well, we hear a lot of things. We're going to propose in a draft form what we think the next step forward is. And then we're going to await public comment because, they get a lot of information. And if not for communities like ours to help really sort of demystify and clarify, there might be a whole lot of things put forth and they might not be put forth correctly. And they acknowledge that. So they invite that public comment. So when something gets put into USCDI, and it is now going to be required that clinical record systems have to liberate this kind of thing, this data element is what it's called, and make it available for data exchange, there is then a period, say 2 years, 3 years, where the standards are there to support that. The vendors get a chance to go, we just got hit with another regulation. Let's make sure, just using patient goals as an example, let's make sure that everything that's documented has been properly categorized as a patient goal. And then when the due date hits, we're going to be able to be conformant with those regulations and make that information available. So USCDI is a very important part of governing what is available for people to access across the healthcare ecosystem. In USCDI v4, we saw with a lot of success, where are you? Sorry, guys, I'm spinning because I'm trying to find it. In the general data class called Goals and Preferences, we saw treatment intervention preference and care experience preference be added. And this was a huge win. Not everything that an individual expresses is packaged in some type of advanced healthcare directive. Of course, the majority of them are, because that's kind of like the formalized tool. But there may be clinical notes. There may be all kinds of things that through the course of an encounter or a visit, your clinician has asked you about, you've answered the question, and then they've documented it in your record. So this was a huge win. Excuse me, allergy. Gotta love spring in the deep south. Sorry about that. So this was a huge win because we knew that the government was recognizing, formally recognizing that what someone wants, what they prefer in terms of treatments or interventions, it now has teeth. And what someone feels is important as they receive care, it now has teeth. And again, there's a glide path. And then we saw some other things start to come in, and we knew that the march was not done. Last year, USCDI version 5 was published, and they opened the comment period, I want to say around February, and then they take in comments, gosh, I think until April sometime. And then they really, really review that stuff and think very, very carefully about what they can really ask the vendors to do. And they publish the real version in about July. So when this came up, we said, wow, we're on a roll. We've got the treatment intervention preferences, we've got care experience preferences, and we didn't bolt those to a form. We said, no matter what they are, we need to have those available to inform care. So in version 5, a new data class was added, and a thing called advanced directive observation was brought to fruition. And when we talked about this last year, we talked about how this is sort of an activation phase. So the healthcare professional says, yes, I see. I see your advanced directive, or I see your portable medical order, or I see your mental health advanced directive, or your advanced care plan. I see that you have a document, and I am going to review this with you during the course of a normal visit. Is this still accurate? Is this your form? Have you done another? Is this the set of instructions that we should be using to inform the care that we deliver? And so that activation component is super important. And so what this was put into USCDI to represent was, this is any information about a patient or a provider authored document indicating where can I find it, what's in it, what kind of document is it, and has it been verified? And then there's these usage notes, and these are really helpful to vendors who are trying to adhere to the requirements of USCDI. So the usage note is, hey, this can include structured or unstructured data. And remember, that means metadata that's rich and has meaning, or a scanned document that's been placed inside a system, and that scanned document is going to be made available. So it may include information data, whether a person has one or more advanced directive documents, the type, where is it, and whether it has been verified. And those documents may be used should the individual be unable to communicate directly with their care team. And then it always gives examples. It includes, but are not limited to, indication that a living will is on file, a reference to the location of a durable medical power of attorney, and the validating provider. I take you to this because I'm setting the stage for what I'd like to share with you related to version 6. So version 6 is marked draft because we're in the comment period, and it is important that we review the difference between what is, as of version 5, and what is being proposed that will be finalized in July of this year in version 6. So there's lots and lots of things that have been added here. And a lot of times they'll identify something new. So we used to require that the identifier, the provider ID, type of facility, the name of facility be sent. Guess what? We're proposing that the address be sent as well. That sounds good. We are not extremely focused on that in this community, but again, just to kind of give you a landscape, you can sort of see, although it's not 100% faithful, what the difference is, what the new items are that are being brought forward. I received a lot of calls and a lot of feedback in the data class of orders. And there were some things that, were discussed. And they said, so we see this portable medical order data element. And we see that it is described currently to be a provider authored request for end of life or life sustaining care for a person who has serious life limiting medical condition. Usage note. These are supposed to follow a person, regardless of when and where that order might be needed. For example, at the hospital, at a facility, at a community, at home. And there are variations in requirements and names for portable medical orders based on jurisdiction, which you guys know better than anybody. And so examples to implementers might be a POLST, a MOLST, or an out-of-hospital DNR. And that makes sense. And to accompany, an advanced directive or an advanced care plan that might indicate your treatment intervention preference or your care experience, portable medical order is sort of a horse of a different color. These are orders. And so putting a requirement that if you have some, you have to make them available, I think we're all united with that requirement. So here's the fly in the peanut butter. I start getting calls from different people that, we engage with across HL7 and high tech, the people that really act as the advisory committee to the ONC, and I know it's called ASTP, but I'm just really having a hard time turning that corner. So I'm going to call them the ONC. And they take this role very, very seriously. And they said, here's the deal. We understand that this needs to happen. We understand the importance. And, we've got to sort of slow how much stuff we're throwing into USCDI, but this is not where we want to pump the brakes. However, anything that's in USCDI has to point to an implementation guide. We've got to have a rule book that these data elements can point to so that implementers can say, okay, got it. I've got a new thing. I need the rules of engagement. And at the moment, our STU2 IG, which is focused on portable medical orders and a whole lot of good work on person-authored documents, that IG is not published. And so, well, okay, what about the ePolst CDA IG? Because you can point to CDA, you can point to FHIR. As long as you've got rules of engagement, then all of the boxes have been checked. And the ePolst CDA IG has some known issues. Plus, it was built for one form, and there's a jillion D out there. And so that's not going to be a great fit. And so I engaged in weeks of discussions with the technical steering committee, with NHL7, different high-tech stakeholders, lots of different people. And so I want to share with you guys what I would like you to consider that we propose in the way of comments as the Advanced Directive interoperability community. Now, I'm not going to make your eyes bleed. I'll take off the color. I just did it so that I could remember what's what. Passio, as you know, is really sort of the the body of experts that supports a lot of the work that we do. And so Passio derived some comments, and I appreciate what they have gathered here, but what I put in green is what I would like this community to consider recording in the way of a comment. Here was the compromise. Here was the place that we found ourselves. Okay, so I'm right here. I know I'm spinning around a lot. Have I lost you guys, or are we okay where I've got us positioned on the document? Everybody good? Okay, I'm going to assume that that's a yes. So, what the bulk of this comment is going to be around, yes, yes, we want you to promote the portable medical order data element. It's got to happen. I mean, if you'll move treatment intervention preferences and care experience preferences into play, surely you will move order panels that are sometimes 30 years old and well known and relied upon and well accepted and can throttle back emergency medical services as the only instrument to changing the course of that particular healthcare journey. However, since there's not an implementation guide that we can point to, and honestly, there are only, well, there's only one system that I know of that can actually create all of this discrete structured data. What about if we meet the industry where they are? What about if we use the advanced directive observation, which says there's a piece of information out there, and this is what it means, and it can be structured or unstructured data, doesn't have to be fully structured, doesn't have to have metadata. But what about if the portable medical order data element resembles the advanced directive observation, at least while the industry catches up with the work that we're doing? And so I made a suggestion here, and I've double checked with the technical steering committee and all these other things. What I want to do is use US Core, which is the heartbeat of FHIR rules of engagement. So US Core is kind of the FHIR backbone. And what's in US Core, it's published, it's out there. And if there's not a separate implementation guide to handle a specific use case, a specific subject matter, then you go to US Core. And in a like manner, CDA has a backbone implementation guide. So I said, well, what if that's what we're pointing to? And so the wording I suggest is, we support the inclusion of the portable medical order data element in the order data class in USCDI v6. We'd like to suggest that the description of what this data element currently says be modified, and we're going to tell you why through this next paragraph. So I propose that the new description is so similar to that advanced directive observation that it should say information about a provider authored portable medical order document indicating where it is, what's in it, what kind is it, has it been verified, and then those usage notes. Remember those usage notes I pointed out? It may include structured or unstructured data. Whether a person has one or more portable medical order documents, because, out on the East Coast, you may need a portable medical order from, okay, my geography's weak, Maryland, and one from Delaware, because, you live right on the coast and you can go a half hour north and go see your PCP, or you can go a half hour south and you're in Maryland. So it is possible you may need one or more portable medical order documents, the type of portable medical order, where is it, and has it been verified? Such documents may be used Should a person be unable to communicate during an emergency or health crisis to a treating provider their preferences for CPR and or life-sustaining treatment interventions, and often include goals of care. Examples include, but are not limited to, indication that a POST, MOST, DNR, or similar document is on file, a reference to the location of the portable medical order document, and the validating provider. And so what those words do is they meet the industry where they are. They give cause to all of the vendors who have literally hundreds of thousands of these documents stored in their clinical record system, and it gives them the ability not to transform them to structured data, which is kind of what treatment intervention preferences and care experience preferences are, but to send them as is, get them out there, release the Kraken, get these documents out there. And so I further explained that this change to the description, modeled after the advanced directive observation data element, supports the needs for patients and their providers to access and honor these important documents, even as can't get good help these days. The healthcare industry moves from paper-based and unstructured document workflows to more efficient, verifiable, and person-centered data exchange and access document workflows. And I verified FHIR US Core and CDA currently support exchange and access to unstructured data and documents, and the projects that are moving quickly to balloted FHIR and CDA IGs for these kinds of documents can provide the needed guidance to support structured data without the risk of leaving these critical life and death legally enforceable documents behind. So there will be a point, in fact, we're gonna go to ballot in September, where the IG will be out there that they can point to. And maybe at that point, USCDI draft V7, we're going to say, okay, you know what? We gave them an on-ramp and now the on-ramp's over because we've got an IG that we can point to. This doesn't have to go as part of our comments, but we know so much more about what we do than the folks in Washington do. And that's fine because nobody has a clue as to what they're doing up there. So they can know what they know and we can know what we know. And so I tried to provide some additional, I actually needed this for my discussions with HITAC and the ONC and some other folks. So this is background, right? It communicates an order or a set of legally valid actionable orders authored by a practitioner in collaboration with the patient or their designee for specific emergency care that the patient wishes to receive. Why portable? Well, it means that the orders are valid inside and outside the originating provider's location, similar to a drug prescription, and they are intended to travel with the patient across care settings. Medical order. This means that the orders in the document have the legal validity required by care teams to act upon the specific direction contained therein. And further, again, for folks that don't know, a PMO is legally binding when signed by the practitioner and patient or designee. However, it's important to know that in some states or jurisdictions, depending on the type of portable medical order, there may be requirements for additional authenticators, such as witnesses or notaries or, a second opinion on the part of the physician. But again, it's just sort of unwinding all of this for people who may not be as close. This kind of witness step might be needed for DNRs or DNARs, which contain only an instruction for the provision of CPR when such is the appropriate medical intervention. Again, in an effort to educate, portable medical orders have been in place on paper in the US for decades and have many, many names. It could be a POST, a MOST, a POST, a MOST, a TPOP, a DNR, a DNAR, a DNH, a DNI, an EMSCC. And so I laid out, some of the more common names that we have uncovered in our environmental scan. Again, giving them background. Portable medical orders are intended to represent the instructions for CPR and life-sustaining treatment for a limited population of patients, typically those who are seriously ill or have a life-limiting condition, such the practitioner would expect life expectancy to be 12 months or left. And I did note that some jurisdictions extend that life expectancy to 18 months or less. Other jurisdictions require that a portable medical order be in place for any individual who is being admitted to a nursing home, hospice, or any type of facility, regardless of life expectancy. So I'm painting a picture of variation while still explaining consistency. And then I further said best practice is to review any advance directive documents against the portable medical order for consistency. In fact, most of the documents, you guys know this, they don't, in place across the US enable capture of that advance directive review and conformance. And the standard options are, yep, I looked at it, we got no conflict, or, yep, I looked at the advance directive, a conflict exists with this portable medical order and the patient has been notified, or the advance directive exists, but I didn't have access to it, but I know it's out there, or nothing exists. And then I further stated, based on some questions I got from the folks that were, wanting a stance that they could get behind, it is worth stating that in many jurisdictions, there is a prohibition against acting on PMOs that are not the treating state's version. And then I called out some examples. Massachusetts. The most instructions may be honored in some states straight off the site, but not in others. However, a MOLS form is always a good record. Likewise, forms from other states are not considered valid medical orders in Massachusetts, but they may be considered as evidence of a person's preferences. Patients who reside in or spend time regularly in multiple states are recommended to discuss their MOLS orders with clinicians in both states. So that kind of paints a picture of why people may have multiple. I also said that signature requirements can cause a lack of reciprocity between states, since some states allow nurse practitioners to sign while others do not. Same consideration applies to advanced practice nurses that can sign in some states but not others, which further sets up a brick wall on using them across state lines. And I said it's important to note that in every instance we could find a portable medical order from another state that is not legally binding in the treating state still provides important information that the treating provider really should use to inform the individual's treatment. And then I shared with them that DNRs just plain don't cross state lines, and I gave them a link to the DNR to World Population Review. And anyway, I just kind of wanted to paint the picture for them. I've done a lot of talking. I've tried to describe why I suggested we do what we do. And I would, yeah, you'd think so, Abby, but don't go to Maryland, because you go to Maryland and I don't care whether you're there for 21 days of rehab. They're going to have you fill out a most, but that's fine. Every state is different and we're just going to love them just the same. Would you guys like to share with me if you believe that these comments, and yeah, I'll clean up the typos. Are you guys behind these comments? Did we miss something? I talked to a lot of folks. I'm like, hey, USCDI should be the tip of the spear. I don't care if there's an IG out there or not. And our IG will hit long before USCDI version 6 is required. So I don't care that there's not an IG there. We've got to get these things liberated. And they're like, okay, well, dear, you should care. So we need to find a way to peel this banana that works for everybody. So can you guys give me some thoughts? Tell me if this is good, bad, or ugly. Go ahead and blurt.
Hi, Maria. This is Abby.
Hi, honey.
You you know I'm gonna have thoughts and feelings. Um, well, first of all, I would love to be able to read this. My eyeballs are old and I would love to, if there's any way you could send this to the group, that would be amazing because I want to look into the meat of it. Um,
100%.
I have just, I don't have good feelings or bad feelings. I have conflicting feelings. And that's kind of the nature of all of this work at all times is like, do we move forward or do we get it perfect? And there's no right answer. And so I think the things I want to comment on are I love the idea of just moving forward, of getting this in use, of, the more we can get portable medical orders easily implemented, the better. Um, then, but the ability to, or not the ability, the process of doing it without metadata brings up some issues that we've seen, for instance, in electronic healthcare records in the past, where there's not information captured. And really, what I'm mostly concerned about is versioning and the wrong orders being acted on because a form is that doesn't have metadata is uploaded, and the say it's an older form that is uploaded after a newer form, and so while it looks newer, it is not the latest order set, and then could be acted on. And I don't know if that's a possibility with what you're talking about. I could be misunderstanding, but those are just some of the things that I think as a group I want to sit with this and think of all the possibilities of, how this would work well and maybe how we could tweak it to make sure that those adverse events don't happen. And so I want to get everybody else's opinions because I'm just kind of this is like my brain barf right now because I haven't actually formed a coherent opinion at the moment. So thank you for listening.
Oh, no, 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 that's really valuable. And, we're kind of cut from the same bolt of cloth. The folks that reached out to me, you could hear them just take a big, deep breath before they started talking. And they're like, okay, we know you're just about to rain on our parade with all of this, but you have to help me. We can't do this without an IG, and I know it's important, and I'm impatient. I'm impatient for I can't believe we're still talking about this. Like I want it done right now. But I will send it out absolutely 100%. I just added the words current versus superseded, for example, to version of document. I think that would be helpful. And I will send it out. And I do think it's important that you guys take some time to review this. I just thought if I did sort of a narration and gave you context, that it would help you formulate some modifications to this instead of just sending it out and going, hey, we're going to meet on Wednesday, so have some feedback. That's the way I would want it done. So I guess that's the way I did it.
So
I love it.
Maria,
Oh,
yeah,
go
go
ahead,
ahead, Abby.
Yolanda.
Oh, I really appreciate Maria, you set the context and explain the USCDI, and then we come to the PMO. This is a really valuable input. The passive community, as planned, the USCDI comments, basic comments, we are supposed to, we already share with the community, but we are proposing a vote this afternoon during our weekly meeting. But this is, as Abby said, we want to add this description. I think it really definitely makes a lot of sense, and sounds like we need additional time to review this part. What I'm proposing is we can still hold our vote for other comments, and we can set up another vote for this additional comments.
That's fine. Yep. What I have in yellow is the most recent document from UBA,
Yes.
and it's not really well aligned with the information that I sent you guys. So I thought, well, you guys do what you do, but I'm going to run this past the ADI community and we'll provide comment on behalf of ADI. I think it's helpful if we're aligned, but um, I want to make sure that this community is supportive or has a chance to edit these comments. And then I think that's what we need to send in. So, no, I think that'd be great. Matt, you've got a really keen eye when it comes to USCDI and what's tolerable and what's not tolerable. Um, I have no pride of authorship. Can you tell me what you think?
I think this is the right direction, honestly. I think it's a little bit narrow, but at the same time, um, as USCDI version 6 and now where we're going to be working on 7 kind of move forward, the scope of like with the new data elements does get narrower, and I think pushing for this specific set is the best idea from our group. And just continuing to advocate and push for, and if we can get to that limited set of pieces that we have here and continue to push that and commenting and things like that, I think we're going to get a lot more traction.
Thank you. Yeah, because I do want the structured data. And to be clear, wrapping an unstructured, I'll call it a PDF, wrapping an unstructured document, PDF, in all of the delicious
I think
data.
you're breaking up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Blah. I never
Oh, you're
know when
back.
my Am I back? Stupid internet, stupid computers. Um, so wrapping a PDF for appropriate data exchange, you still have a ton of metadata, Abby. You still have, the core identifiers that you have to have, even if you're sending a two-dimensional scan document. So you still have to know who, what, where, when, version, what kind of creature is this? You kind of lose all of that. Specifically, what was their CPR designation, but you still have metadata that does the job that it's supposed to do, which is why I pointed to US Core and CDA and I wanted to build a glide path. Okay, just send us your PDFs for the love of Peter, Paul, and Mary. Send us your PDFs, wrap it up tightly, make sure we know what's what. But I also, if you can do it, you know what? If you have structured data, send that instead or send that too. So, Abby, I did want to respond to that there is still a significant amount of metadata that has to encapsulate an unstructured document so we don't lose important things like version. So I hope that's helpful.
That is really helpful. And yeah, we don't need everything, just as long as there's not, the ability to do harm. I love the idea of just getting out there and moving forward.
Yeah, and that's the key is getting our foot in the door. I think we can expand on it later, certainly, but I think making sure that Dr. Dodson, I think the biggest thing is have what you need to know what they're-
Ooh, that breaking up might be on your side, honey. We caught about every other word.
Oh, sweet. Okay. So basically it is a walk before you can run kind of thing. And if Dr. Dodson is saying that we have the minimum necessary in order to actually do our jobs kind of with this first iteration, we're in good shape and then we can iterate on it later.
That's great. And I did contact Brett Marquardt, who is with the Technical Steering Committee. I verified that the document type hierarchy that we have all been working from, where at the top level, you've got a general code. These are all the advanced healthcare directive documents in the whole wide world, whatever. And then below that, you can specifically have a document type code for living will versus durable medical power of attorney, for portable medical order versus mental health advanced directive. All of that is in US Core and CDA. So we can point to those guides and we can leverage them for now. And then, as you know, we are burning the midnight oil to be able to file our notice of intent to ballot in June and then go to ballot in September. We've got to push this IG out, even though it's been quite a slog, because without an implementation guide, it's the Wild West out there. And people are going to do what they do unless you give them some rules of engagement. So anybody else want to um, identify some things? And yes, of course, I will send this out to you guys, but anybody else have any feedback like, wow, you guys missed the bus so bad, I can't believe it, or no, this looks good, I just need to read it. Okay. All right, well, good. Okay, good. One of the other things that's on this document that you'll see, there is a stair step that is a natural progression in USCDI. Something gets thought of and put into level 0, and then people like it and they support it, and it goes up one stair step and it becomes level 1. And then they get more and more and more support, or IGs become more mature, and it goes to level 2. And for the most part, only elements that are a level 2 can be considered for the next version. Okay, just so you guys know. There is still a data element back at level 0 called portable medical orders for life-sustaining treatments. And I think as things have moved on, we really feel that the portable medical orders to encompass everything is probably a better idea. So I want to recommend that they remove the portable medical orders for life-sustaining treatment that's still back at square one, and we can explain why. And then you guys will see on the document too, that there is a provenance data class, and that purpose of capture is being recommended to move from the first step of the staircase to the second step. And when I send this out, you guys can review this and see what you think about that. It feels as though purpose of capture might be really helpful if you were looking at, don't go past it, don't go past it. Okay. If someone expressed a treatment intervention preference or a care experience preference, I could see purpose of capture really being informative to the receiving clinician. Um, was this captured because, we're at point of intake, and this is a super risky surgical procedure, and it wasn't appropriate that we do an advanced directive reportable medical order, but it was appropriate that I ask, hey, before we go into the operating room, if you should happen to code, what are your treatment intervention preferences? So I could see the purpose of capture being an adjective to a really important information that might clarify its utilization. So you guys will see that in the document too. It's going to take us over to the environmental scan, but I certainly don't want to cut short the conversation pending sending out that Word document once I clean it up. Everybody okay with the USCDI discussion?
So Maria, I have an additional question. So sounds like for the provenance classes you still want the community to review. Is that or are you aligned with the existing PASIO comments?
I did not make any changes to the
Oh,
existing
okay.
PASIO comments. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like since we are going to do the 2 votes, and is that okay we vote on provenance, or do you think we need additional discussion?
I mean, I think it's okay for the PASIO community to vote,
Hmm.
but I would suggest that if the ADI community has a different feeling, that it's perfectly acceptable for us to, um, express that or provide comments on that differently.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Because the ADI community, to my view, it's an expert on the advanced directive in information exchange, and also the provenance is also related, and the whole passive community definitely respects the ADI community kids' opinion, and so. Um, let's talk about during our weekly meeting. And if it definitely, I don't want to rush it because we have until April 14th to submit the comments as a whole community. So if we need more time, let's don't rush it. That's my only comments for this.
Super. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I wanted to go back to the environmental scan. We have been wrestling some of these trickier concepts to the ground. There's a couple that I wanted to just bring to your attention. There's a couple of outlier forms that actually capture a healthcare agent designation. One of the things that I've done is go back through the environmental scan, and I've tried to faithfully notate, especially on more outlier concepts, the number of forms that have necessitated that we create a line item and maybe some context around that form. And so there's kind of an outlier here. Form number 48 it records the consent by the patient to allow the healthcare agent to modify or revoke the New Jersey Post in consultation with the treating practitioner in keeping with stated goals. And so that's a little different than I agree. My healthcare agent can do whatever they need to do because I can't possibly have defined all of that in this document. So they can deviate because they know me and they know what I want. This was a little bit different. Giving treatment instructions and actually negotiating a new post feels very different. Form number 77 had a patient consent to allow the medical power of attorney to make decisions and complete a new portable medical order in accordance with expressed wishes or best interests. These two are very, very similar, but they're not the same as this. And then Form 72 and 81 were basically the same as this. So what I put in red is we're going to put a new permit provision in the consent profile that can express a deviation from or creation of a new portable medical order. And so these are some of the backflips and somersaults that we do. I don't want to jam a square peg in a round hole. So when the intended spirit of a concept on a form is different than what we already know to do from previous work, then we need to call that out and we need to find a way to handle it. So Lisa Nelson, who is just so amazing and incredible, and May Terry on the MITRE team, we have worked long and hard to chew on all of these concepts. There's a couple of other outlier concepts, and again, we're going to use the consent profile with specific deny provisions. And so here's another weird one, another outlier. I am going to let my healthcare proxy make the decision to withhold life-sustaining treatment if function ceases. So I have not expressed my thoughts, but I'm going to allow my healthcare agent to do that. That's different. That's not, I consent to this. It's saying, oh, I'm not going to make a decision, but I will allow them to decide. So again, we found a way to handle that. And in a like but different way, I'm going to allow my healthcare agent to consult with my attending doctor and jointly agree to withhold life-sustaining treatment if function ceases. So a lot of these nuances, man, you got to pull them out. You got to tease them out and really bring them to light. You guys can see all the form references here. So how many forms had a do not hospitalize concept? How many forms had a do not intubate concept? And then we know, well, gosh, that's a lot of forms. You know what? We better find a way to handle that. Or, oh, there's only one form. Actually, handling palliative care is super easy. But we can really sort of see the scope and the impact as we look to wrap this puppy up. What are the things that are such outliers that only one odd form has it, and it's so much work I can't hold up the IG, versus what are the concepts that there's way too many forms that have this, we simply have to find a solution. So you can see some improvements in what we've done here. I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. There's a number of forms, a few forms that deal with uh, consent to be an organ donor, or the fact that the organ donation election is documented elsewhere. We've got some temp codes. We have some changes to put into the IG. I really just wanted to show you. When we next meet, I'm going to give you guys some concrete data on this. There are some forms that I think for the most part, portable medical orders assume that if the individual signed off on the form, the practitioner judged that decisional capacity was intact. Otherwise, why would I let them sign? And so there's a couple of forms that actually make the practitioner check a box. And so we found a way to express mental status, and there are, good grief, 216 different answers in the value set right now. And we're going to go through and we're going to pare that back and suggest that I think only about a dozen of them are appropriate as a response to this question. And so I'll get those answers to you guys so that you can sort of see, what we're recommending. We constrain a very well-known question with a very well-known set of answers for the use case of advanced directive interoperability. So that's a little bit of what we've been up to. We're trying to hurry up and get this done, get the last of the concepts wrangled to the ground. That way the MITRE technical team can just go off and have all of our attention and dedication on the topic of mental health or psychiatric advanced directives. So lots and lots of information. You're sick of hearing me talk. Does anybody have any questions or any comments? Because we really do this to check our steps with you guys and make sure that you agree with where we're going. And if you don't, please, please tell us. So any comments? You guys are a tired group. We will be meeting the week after next. We will have a bunch of forward motion done. I hope to be almost done with the final details on the environmental scan. I will leverage our friends at MITRE to help me send this Word document for USCDI draft V6 comments out to all of you. And then hopefully you guys will send us some thoughts back, and we'll touch base on it when next we meet. I hope that the onset of spring has been kind to all of you. I hope you're done with snow and ice and you're enjoying some sunshine. And I can't tell you how much your presence and your guidance means to all of the people who will benefit from this work, who will never know your name. We know your name and we see you and we thank you. So we will talk to you again in a couple of weeks. Thanks for joining, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
You betcha. Bye now.